Hi, my name's Lisa. Have you heard of the 7 ways to pivot? So what is that? Well, so I am the founder of the Elephant Method podcast, and I'm so happy to share with you the Elephant Method. One aspect of the Elephant Method is the pivot. Now, the pivot is interesting because it's a simple phrase that we use when we get stuck in the middle of a sentence. Right. So, from my experience with non native speakers, they will go ahead and start speaking, and then they'll get stuck in the middle of the sentence and just start over. And that's very confusing for a native speaker. It's like, what are they doing? You're almost going, I don't know what they're talking about because it seems like they're rambling. Well, rather than doing that, I created just a few phrases that you can put in the middle of a sentence when you forget what you're going to say or you can't grasp the words that you want to use to complete the sentence. So we call it the pivot because we're shifting gears and we're going to rephrase our sentence. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to step into client mode and you just listen. Okay. The first phrase I'm going to say is, let me rephrase that. So here we go. The reason for the delay is it's about, let me rephrase that. The shipping department is behind in scheduling, so that caused the delay. Okay. Can you see the benefit of that little phrase? Let me rephrase that. I get started and I'm thinking, oh, the reason is, and then my mind goes blank. So I'm going to use this phrase. Let me go on to phrase number 2, which is, well, in other words. So step into my role. Well, we need to make the process more, well, in other words, we need to make it faster so that the client gets the product quicker. Okay, very entertaining, huh? Much easier to follow when we're using all the filler words. It takes a lot of mental energy for us to listen to what somebody's saying. Let's go on to number 3. Let me put it another way. Okay, here we go. If we had, or maybe if the client was able to, okay, let me put it another way. If the client needs a different solution, maybe we could build on the recommendations we already have. As you can see, it's like, okay, I got this. It just took a little while. Okay, now we're going to drop down to number 4, and we're going to use let me be more specific. Okay, again, this is we interrupt the sentence so that we can start over. There are some things about, what we discussed. Well, let me be more specific. I'm worried about the budget for the third quarter. If we don't make some changes, we're going to way overspend. Okay, now you have some authority, and that's what we're looking for. We want to make sure that those lost sentences, you don't stop and start over. You create a space using the pivot. Okay, let's keep going on to number 5. Let me start over. And I'm going to step into my role. I think with the strategy is, I'm not really sure, but let me start over. The thing here is the current plan isn't working, so we have to go back to the drawing board. And what that phrase means, back to the drawing board, is go back to the beginning, right? And so let me start over. It's a wonderful phrase. Okay, we're going to drop down to number 6. And this phrase is what I'm trying to say is. What I'm trying to say is. So when we look at the data and we see the numbers, the people are, what I'm trying to say is that we don't have enough inventory to meet the increasing sales. It just takes a minute. What I'm trying to say is. Okay. And number 7, the last and final one is okay, let me try again. It's not a weakness to say, I need a do over. And so that's what we want to explain. You're not showing vulnerability, you're showing power. So step into my role. The system is, it's been doing this. Oh, Let me try again. The software needs an update because it keeps causing the system to freeze. So, with these brief sentences, such as, let me rephrase that, well, in other words, let me put it another way, let me be more specific, let me start over, what I'm trying to say is, and okay, let me try again. These are very powerful phrases and use them wisely, right? You get stuck, you automatically jump into these 7 and they will save your life and make you sound knowledgeable. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get your message across. So, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Also, tell me which one of these phrases you are most likely to use. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.